Tantalus Entertainment presents the Killer Score Podcast.
Hey, it's your lovely host, Daulton Morrison, and I'm here with my two great co-hosts,
Richard Eckert
and Erin Murray.
So, Rich is going to be presenting the episode for us today. Belated spooky season episode, but, you know, hey, it's still technically fall, and we're going into winter, and fall and winter are the spookiest seasons by default. I mean, it's when everything's dying.
And truly, what is scarier than my complete lack of punctuality?
Or, perhaps the scariest thing, the journey I had to go to find this film. So, it's not available on US streaming services. It's available at foreign ones, but I don't own a VPN, and I didn't care to download or pay for one yet. And I think to myself, okay, physical media is the way I like to go. But I ran into the dilemma that this film is such a cult classic that it's so cult and underground that physical copies are insanely expensive on the secondhand market. So what I had to do was buy a region-free version of this because, believe it or not, one country that is still manufacturing this film, they didn't even dub it, they just put subtitles, is South Korea. So I bought a South Korean copy of this film because it'd be cheaper than pretty much any other option. And I checked,
it would be weirder
and
if
it
was
works.
North Korea.
Yeah, that would be weirder. But point is, we have a working copy. We're going to watch that today for the podcast. And, my usual, Daulton Morrison here, professional film lover. And, connoisseur, yes.
That is certified, by the way.
Yeah.
Totally take that as 100% certification.
Yeah, no, the best of film certification gave me that title. You can
The British Film Institute,
Sure.
even though we're not even in the UK.
Sure, let's go with that one. You can find me online at my usual tags. We'll put them in the description like we usually do. And I got some projects coming up that I'm cooking up. You guys want to do your stuff?
Richard Eckert, Richard's Rad Voices, film buff, voice actor, and occasional audio drama creator. That stuff will be coming soon on my channel, but I've got a comic dub coming up of my own efforts that will hopefully show you what I'm capable of, and more projects in collaboration with all sorts of folks, including these lovely people, coming up soon.
Yeah.
Find me on my YouTube channel at Richard Eckert, Twitter under Richard F. Eckert. Moving it along now.
Erin Murray from witchandcrafts.com. I am also a part-time musician, part-time amateur filmmaker when I have the time. Film connoisseur as well as my co-hosts here. You can find me over at Twitter and Instagram, and you can also find my website in the description.
And tonight, as we have alluded to, we are going to be covering a film that I think is a long time coming for this particular podcast. Ever since Daulton had pitched the idea of Killer Score to me, I had quite a few ideas, but one of the first ideas I had was a Halloween episode centering on Kathryn Bigelow's neo-western vampire classic, Near Dark, with music by the one and only Tangerine Dream, famous for all sorts of awesome ambient music for films across multiple genres, but this is especially atmospheric and haunting and wonderful, and that and this movie were both things I needed to expose to two of my dearest friends in the world.
Oh, thanks.
Yep.
So, got any thing to tell us about this before we get right into it?
Oh yes, this movie has quite the interesting history behind it. Many of you may recognize Kathryn Bigelow for her work on more modern and dramatic movies, mostly war stuff like Zero Dark 30 and The Hurt Locker. Prior to this, however, back in the late 80s, early 90s, she had been shopping around a script she had for a Western, but couldn't quite find that magic something to modernize it or make it something that people would want to see. Thankfully, however, she had a bit of creative input from her then husband, James Cameron, who basically, from what I can tell, said, if you can't make a Western cool, just mix it up with something else.
Yeah.
And then she had an idea. Vampires.
Ah.
Da-da-da.
Yeah, no. I mean, good concept. It was a popular thing at the time, so, you know.
Indeed. And as you could probably tell by the cast list of this movie, that was not the only bit of influence James Cameron had over the movie.
Yeah, I didn't look over the cast list too much, but I do see that, you know, there's some pretty recognizable names. Good old Lance Hendrickson, horror veteran himself. Some of you probably know him best from playing Bishop in the Aliens films, or the horror connoisseurs in the channel probably know him from Pumpkinhead. And good old Bill Paxton, I could see, was in this too.
Bill Paxton giving probably my favorite performance of his in any of the movies I've seen him in, and that is saying something. And also Jeanette Goldstein.
Oh yeah.
Fresh off of playing Vasquez, she plays a butch, bleach blonde vampire.
So there is a bit of overlap from the Aliens cast, it seems.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that overlap did not translate for its success. Even with the added horror elements and the presence of vampires, this movie did fall by the wayside and did not do well at the box office. It did, however, receive new life as a staple of late-night cable movie showings, especially around the Halloween season.
Yeah, a lot of movies make back their acumen, or like make back like some of the, like their less than stellar receipts by doing that. Back in the 90s in particular, and the early 2000s, a lot of films were rescued from like getting, you know, just like no recognition by like cable and also the DVD sales. I mean, famously, that's what led to the sequels to Austin Powers, because the first Austin Powers did all right at the box office, had solid reviews, but like not everyone went to see it because it wasn't based off a pre-existing IP. But then the VHS tapes rolled and the DVD tapes rolled around. Studios saw how well they sold on VHS and DVD, and like all the cable showings, and that led to sequels. That kind of stuff happens.
And it happened a lot with some of the subjects we've had on our podcast before, like Rock and Roll, to a lesser extent, Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, that became one of those films that, like, you know, people at the video stores would just be like, oh, gotta see this. And over the years, thanks to the internet and, like, how its humor is very, very internet-friendly, like, that led to that getting a lot of resurgence online.
I think we just showed our age because we just mentioned remembering video stores.
Oh yeah, no. Any Gen Z listeners we have are probably gonna be like, what? Or just be like, wow, these guys are old.
My life reads like a Social Distortion song, because the Blockbuster I loved as a kid is now a 7-Eleven. Or was one, because the 7-Eleven isn't even there.
Yeah, the Blockbuster I went to in my town, like, a few years before they, like, closed, like, the last Blockbuster I started going to, it is now a sewing academy.
Oh yeah, I like that place.
It is next to a 7-Eleven, though.
I honestly brought this movie up because I felt a bit guilty for my previous picks, which, while valuable and important, were very, very flawed.
Yeah.
I let rose-tinted glasses really get in the way of some of the flaws, and I am kind of hoping that I can avoid that trend for other movies that I introduce my co-hosts to. I am confident, however, that this, in spite of having a couple of pacing issues here and there, will break that curse. Because this movie's legacy is one that precedes itself in a lot of ways. As you know, Kathryn Bigelow went on to become a critical darling in her own right.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Even while her other films were more grounded, this definitely showcases her directorial expertise and her absolutely wonderful way of shooting action and tension-filled scenes.
Yeah, and one thing to mention from Kathryn Bigelow that I just think is kind of funny, the year that Avatar came out, it was the same year The Hurt Locker came out, and guess who won the Oscar? The Hurt Locker.
Yep. And those who are into vampires must consider this film mandatory viewing if you haven't already, because there's a little game that may ring some bells for a couple of you. A little RPG / video game series known as Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh, right, yeah. I think I heard somewhere that this film kind of influenced that a bit.
You can see that very much in this particular instance, because the game especially owes a lot to the mindset of vampires and their societal structure to this movie.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And one thing I just want to hype you up for before we start this is that this movie is a cinematically beautiful example of filmmaking. Like, the shot composition and choreography in this are quite possibly some of the best in any vampire movie ever, let alone one that has this weird neo-western aesthetic to it, and one that has the Tangerine Dream score attached to it.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, I would like you all to enter this Wild West with me, this dark, desolate desert. Let us begin.
All right, looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
And we're back after screening Killer Score to my other two co-hosts who have not seen this movie.
You
Thank-
screening Near Dark?
Anyway, normally rose-tinted glasses completely destroys the mood I had set in the beginning, but thankfully it was not one of those times. I loved this movie back in late high school, early college, and I still do. The movie is a beautifully filmed, atmospheric, wonderfully scored, wonderfully acted piece of neo-western fiction with a supernatural twist. They spare no expense inserting vampires into this American Southwestern setting and playing all the tropes out to stylized perfection. So, going from right to left here, Erin?
So, I actually love this movie. I would definitely watch it again on my own time. Outside of Killer Score. The cinematography, I just fell in love with immediately, and the shot composition. The music was really cool. It was by Tangerine Dream, you said?
Yes.
Yes. And there's certain things that was there's a scene in, where they're in a bar, and I'm just like, that voice sounds familiar for the music, because it wasn't Tangerine Dream. It was a George Strait song, and I recognized it immediately.
And funny enough, they also played a song by John Parr, was it?
John Parr.
John Parr,
Yep.
who composed the song Man in Motion, aka St. Elmo's Fire, which is funny because Jenny Wright, who plays May in this movie, was in the film St. Elmo's Fire.
Yep.
Funny thing is that she also was in, she was also in Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she played, her title was American Groupie,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think that's what I recognized her from,
Yeah.
was her was like her short thing in Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Yeah, Adrian Pastar, turns out, has been in a lot of stuff. I just looked. Turns out he's actually gotten a bit of a career voice acting now too. He's been in a couple of like the Marvel shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
yeah, well, he also voiced Iron Man in the Marvel anime thing that they did.
Oh,
for-
Marvel
Oh,
anime
yeah.
and
Yeah.
what else are you doing for?
He was in Carlito's Way as well, apparently.
Yeah, he was.
I haven't seen that, but he's really good in this. This is actually my first time I've seen Adrian Pastar in something. He does a very good job in this role, but no, I really enjoyed this overall. Everyone's great. Shout out to my boy Lance Hendrickson. Rest in peace. Same Bill Paxton. Rest in peace as well.
Did Lance Hendrickson die?
Yeah, a few years ago.
I think he's still alive. I know Bill Paxton died.
I'll double check it, but I'm pretty sure Lance Hendrickson's dead because I remember hearing about it and being like, "Oh man, not Lance," because I've said before, I met him in person.
Yeah.
Very nice fella. Oh, he's still alive? Jesus Christ!
Yep.
Oh, I thought he died.
No, he's been doing voice acting recently.
Oh,
A lot of his recent stuff has been voice stuff.
Oh wow. Well, I hope we get to see him at a convention again because he's real nice. If you guys ever bump into him at a convention, cool dude. Very 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 chill. No, I love this. Tangerine Dream did such a good job with the score. It knows when to it's so weird because this movie's clearly got a lot of Western influence, but the score does not feel very Western at the same time, but it works for it. There are some points where the score has like a bit of a Fallout New Vegas ambient like stuff, which I feel works.
A lot of synth trills, a lot of ambient noises that form notes the longer it goes along.
I think the second I knew I loved this score was the first scene between Caleb and May when they drive the truck and they stop and she like talks about the stars and stuff, and like it's got this nice like peaceful thing, but then as like she walks off screen they put that like droning sound effect.
Yeah.
Like it's good foreshadowing
Kind
that
of.
things aren't as like peaceful as they seem.
Kind of reminds me of a theremin the way it trills. You know?
I mean, chances are it was probably a synth arpeggiator, but you know.
Because late 80s movie.
Well, not only that, but like you can recognize a theremin like
Very easily.
very very easily.
And also, like, I wish I had a camera here, because an arpeggiator, you just, like, hit a key and a button on a synthesizer. A theremin, you're, like, flicking your wrist in the air.
Yeah.
That's a lot more difficult than just 2 buttons on a synthesizer.
Yeah, no. Some other fun overlap. Quite a few of the we mentioned the aliens connections, and there's actually a movie theater that's showing aliens in the film, which I thought was a fun.
Which we gotta gush for a second about the performances of those alumni, specifically, as you said, Lance Hendrickson. Bill Paxton, though, he knocked it out of the fucking park.
So what? Do we have 3 people who are in aliens?
Yeah.
that were in
Yeah,
this
Jeanette
movie?
Goldstein.
Jack Goldstein, Bill Paxton, and Lance Hendrickson.
That is wild. What a weird coincidence.
Well, yeah, James Cameron was married to Kathryn
At
Bigelow.
the time.
That's right. Well, wait, did he direct Aliens?
Yeah.
I thought Ridley Scott directed Aliens. He only
No, it was
directed...
just the first one.
Oh yeah.
It's the first one, and he directed Prometheus, and yeah.
Did he direct? He didn't. Didn't he direct Alien 3 though?
No. That was David Fincher.
Oh, that's right. That was one of Fincher's earliest like things. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the only ones Ridley Scott did were the first one in Prometheus.
Oh, and Alien Covenant,
And Alien Covenant, yeah.
which also
Yeah.
sucked. Sorry for anyone who likes Alien Covenant or Prometheus. I just think that Ridley Scott has like gone so downhill since the 80s. Like, what good post 80s Ridley Scott movie is there?
I kind of like Prometheus.
I'm gonna go to his filmography real
Thank
quick.
you,
Give me a
thank
second.
Because, like, okay, we got Blade Runner. Fantastic film. One of the greatest sci-fi
Yes.
films of all time. Final cut version specifically, not the theatrical. Jesus, no.
I like how Harrison Ford tried and failed to keep that from coming out.
Yeah, he deliberately botched his narration so bad, and they still went with it. Let's see, you got Alien. Fantastic film.
Yes.
I I know he did some other stuff in the 80s that was pretty... Legend is solid.
Yeah, more so for its atmosphere and its acting from Tim Curry than anything, but they're still worth the price of admission, I'd say.
Hot take, I'd say that personal hot take on my part, I would say that the shots in that film and like the set design is very good in that.
Oh yeah, the story is just kind of
it's pretty box standard.
Well, the only movie I can think of that people remember fondly from Ridley Scott after the 80s is Gladiator and Hannibal.
Okay, those are good.
I agree with
Kingdom of
one
Heaven.
of...
I've heard
Haven't
that's
seen
really
it.
good.
I haven't seen that.
I've heard American Gangster was good.
Oh, he did American Gangster?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I actually liked that one. That one was good.
And yeah, nothing good after that. Yeah.
People like Hannibal?
Some people like Hannibal.
Yeah, some people like Hannibal.
I'm sorry.
Is that the prequel one?
Yeah, that's the...
No, Hannibal Rising is the prequel
That-
one.
Hannibal Rising's the prequel. Hannibal is the one where he eats somebody's brain.
Oh,
That's
okay.
Yeah, and I was like, that's what?
Like, I'm sorry. Like,
To clarify, we mean the film Hannibal, not the TV show. Please, for the love of God, Hannibal show stands, do not come after us. You guys are terrifying.
They are terrifying. And yeah, I only watched the first season of Hannibal and I loved it, but but don't come after us, Hannibal stands. We're sorry.
2000...
I love Mads Mikkelsen, okay?
2000
Yeah.
movie, the one with Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
That's the one we're
Yes.
talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
And here, I'm going to have a hot take. Mads Mikkelsen is the best version of Hannibal Lecter ever. I'm just going to say it. All respect to Hopkins, I just prefer
Yeah.
Mads.
You saved us.
What about Gaspar Oye?
Is that the guy who played him in Rising?
Yeah.
Honestly, hot take. He's one of the better things about that film.
Yeah, that's true.
His performance in that film is very good.
It is.
You can turn in a good performance in a bad film.
In a bad movie. Yeah.
That's Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage's gift, for example.
Case in point, Halle Berry and Catwoman.
That is a hot take. All right.
That is a very hot take.
Yeah.
Like, she had to work miracles and run circles around the worst superhero script ever. I'm not saying she
I don't know.
succeeded.
Supergirl exists.
Fair point.
Supergirl exists.
Let's get back to the movie. Let's get
Back
back
to
to
the
Near
movie.
Dark.
Hey, part of the fun of this podcast is the tangents we go off on. So yeah, no, a lot of great performances in this. Tangerine Dream did a great job on the score. Definitely one of my favorite. I would say Tangerine Dream's one of my favorite. Like that band that occasionally dipped into doing horror movie score bands, along with Goblin.
Yeah. Goblin. Oingo Boingo did a couple of things here too, and they were good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead has done literally like every film score in the past 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's become more common for like musicians to go, I'm gonna do film scores now. I mean, obviously the most famous is Danny Elfman.
Tom York too.
Tom York just started doing that. Johnny Greenwood did it. Probably the other one people I would say recognize the most is Trent Rezner.
Oh, yeah.
And he has been so good at that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at The Social Network.
Oh, the Social Network score is phenomenal, and like even before that, he was doing like he's done some great video game scores. Like he did American McGee's Alice.
Oh.
He also did the score for the American version of The Girl with Dragon Tattoo.
That's right. That's one of the best parts about that movie.
Yeah.
Along with the performances, both the performances in that are
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah.
So, for context, because I actually didn't give the most background for Near Dark, neo-western horror movie about a young cowhand who lives out in the middle of Texas and is rendered smitten by a girl who turns out to be one of many members of a nomadic group of vampires living in a blacked-out van.
Yeah, I think that's another thing I love about this movie is like it kind of makes it pretty clear. Like it's a very realistic in a lot of ways takes on vampirism where it's like, yeah, you would probably have to live the life of a nomad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they keep some tropes and cut some out where it would kind of render the whole thing a bit less grounded. Like,
Very notably, one of the vampires has a has a crucifix on their revolver handle, and
It does nothing to
well,
them.
yeah.
Sunlight basically char-broils them and fries them like a slice of bacon, but
Typical vampire stuff,
as far as we see, that's about their only notable weakness.
Yeah, we don't get to see if any of the other weaknesses come into play, stake through the heart, garlic, all that. It kind of avoids showing them. Hell, it doesn't even show if any of the old weaknesses apply, like severing the head or running water. That's another big weakness of vampires from traditional mythology.
Considering
And mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
Considering Severin tries to cut Caleb's head off at one point.
True. Well, they didn't know he was a vampire when he tried to cut his head off.
Oh, right.
But, so we don't know for sure.
Yeah, May had to reveal that she marked him.
Yeah. So we don't know for sure if that is still one of the weaknesses. Interestingly enough, I've always liked the fact that with certain vampire fiction, they don't make it specifically crucifixes. They make it anything that's like a symbol of faith that the wielder of said symbol actually believes in.
Symbol of goodness, basically.
Yeah, one of the most famous examples I could think of is this X-Men comic where Kitty Pryde gets attacked by a vampire, and she tries to grab a crucifix, and the vampire just smacks it out of her hand, and he goes, like, "Child, you cannot repel me with something you don't believe in," and then it kicks to her, so she grabs her Star of David off of her neck and presses it against the vampire, and he screams and, like, falls back.
That's awesome, honestly.
Yeah.
And one thing I love about this movie is, surprise, surprise, given that it's Richard Eckert, plays with Western tropes in a way that is clever and plays into the fact that this is still a vampiric horror movie. For instance,
You got the shootout with the law.
you got the shootout with the law, which, again,
Bar scene.
the
Bar brawl scene.
bar brawl, and that shootout with the law is one of my favorite gunfights in any movie ever.
I wouldn't be... at that scene when I was watching it, you know what it reminded me a lot of, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a big influence?
What's that?
Reminds me of the shootout from the end of The Devil's Rejects.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of similar lighting, too.
A lot of similar lighting, a lot of holes through
Yeah.
holes through the buildings. and-
Probably Rob Zombie's best movie, I would say.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Good movie. But yeah, they're in the shootout with the law after basically gun pointing their way into a free bungalow.
Yeah.
And the cops surround the place, and it's daylight out. And since it is daylight, they keep
It's the bullet. It's not the bullets they have to worry about. It's the bullet holes, which
the
is
bullet
clever.
holes.
I love that. That was really fun.
You see the sunlight leaking through the holes.
Mhm.
You see Jeanette Goldstein and Bill Paxton ducking about. And one of them actually gets charred when they kick the door down and shotgun one of them to death.
Yeah.
And there's this moment where Severin, the Bill Paxton character, goes, "Oh shit!" and has to kind of withdraw and be like, "Okay, didn't think that through."
Yeah.
Go get a blanket.
Yeah, lots of clever playing with vampire mythology while still playing stuff straight. I like this movie's really well paced. It never gets like particularly slow, but it doesn't feel rushed.
Doesn't feel rushed either.
Yeah, and it does have like it knows when it needs to have like the more quiet moments.
Oh boy, does it ever! Some of those.
To build atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because atmosphere is always a big, it's always an important thing in filmmaking, because you can't have thing after thing after thing after thing happen. You need those breaks in between.
Yeah, there are films where it works. I would say probably the biggest counter to that statement would be like Crank. You don't have a moment to rest with Crank. Same goes with like Hardcore Henry, but like
Those are different genres.
different
though.
genres. But you don't need it in every film. But when you're doing something like this, you 100%
Something
need
that's more
atmosphere.
on the somber end of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One YouTuber, shout out by the way to Thought Slime, who had recommended this as a double feature with Lost Boys. Although
They both came out the same year too, only within months of each other.
Yeah. Although this is much more somber and morose. Like, this movie knows how to have fun because, like, you got Bill Paxton as Severin.
Just having a time. Just having a good time.
Just going.
He's just happy to be there.
That one moment where he's feeding on a corpse and he looks up, he's like, finger licking good.
Yeah.
He's clearly having the most fun there, and he's honestly one of my favorite vampire villains because this isn't a real complex, layered character.
Yeah.
You got Jesse who... Plus you?
Sorry.
It's okay. You got Jesse who has some affection for Jeanette Goldstein's character.
Yeah.
And he's got an honor about him. Then you got Severin, who's just a complete piece of shit, and he's just like, if I see you, I'm gonna rip your throat out. And I'm gonna have fun doing it.
The small child Homer sucks too, and who's also a vampire. Some of you might think, oh wow, this came out in '87. Does that mean this was like the first piece of fiction to do like vampire child? No, actually, because technically the book version of Interview with a Vampire came out like 10 years before this film did.
Yeah.
So.
And there's no such sympathy on Homer's end. He's just
he just sucks.
He's just a little asshole.
Yeah.
And he even outright says, "Yeah, I'm not a kid on the inside. I'm just as bad as these other guys."
Yeah. I even love how Severin's like, yeah, we know. You have to hear about it every fucking night, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, as Daulton alluded to, Lance Hendrickson does a great job. He's intimidating as hell. Anytime he's on screen, he gives this bug-eyed stare that is still super intense. Anytime he speaks up and has to play the part of the leader, you just have to shut up and listen.
Lance is an actor's actor. He's one of those guys who, like, he never, like, you can tell that Lance Henriksen, and I've heard this, he's not the kind of guy who, like, takes any film role lightly. Like, he puts his all into everything.
Kind of like Nicolas Cage, although his is more dramatic than outright passion.
Yeah. Lance is just one of those guys who does it for the love of the craft, you can tell. And, like, doesn't matter if it's something schlocky like Pumpkinhead, he will, like, give a performance.
He'll give his all, and
yeah.
He's a fantastic voice actor as well. I remember my first exposure to him, weirdly enough, was that Transformers animated series from, like, the mid-2000s.
Right, yeah.
Just around the time the Michael Bay show was coming out, but it was much more lighthearted.
I find it funny how there's a lot of, like, veteran horror movie actors who've gone on to do voice acting for the Transformers series.
And just in general. Because, let's see, for the Transformers series, you got Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Combs.
Yep.
Lance Henriksen.
Yeah. He did and made horror stuff. Orson Welles for the old Transformers movie, you know.
Good performance, too.
Oh, yeah. Galvatron is one of the coolest villains of the entire
That was
franchise.
Leonard Nimoy.
Right.
You're thinking Unicron.
Unicron.
I just did a quick Wikipedia search of Lance Henriksen, and he also voiced Kerchak in Tarzan, the Disney movie.
Oh, yeah.
And
Good
General
person.
Shepard in Modern Warfare 2. Those are like his two most notable.
Yeah. He was locked down in Transformers Animated, and he plays kind of a hardened, amoral bounty hunter type. And he kind of brings the drawl in, but not too much.
Yeah.
Like, Lance Henriksen just has an intimidating boom of a voice.
He does.
And
he knows how to use it, too, you know?
very kind of almost reminds me of Chris Christopherson.
Ooh, yeah.
Where, he has this vibrato to him.
Yeah, honestly, I did...
One that I can replicate with my amateur vocal cords.
Honestly, I did really love this film. It's definitely going to go up there in my list with, like, if anyone's like, hey, do you have any cult vampire films you'd really recommend? It's going to go up there for, like, when I say, yeah, have you seen Let the Right One In? Or, yeah, have you seen Thirst? Like, those are the two ones I usually
Now
recommend.
there's a third.
Yeah,
Yay.
exactly. Those are usually the two I recommend. This one definitely had more of an influence on vampire pop culture, I would say, though, even if it
Yeah.
isn't recognized as much. The first thing I noticed, I said when I saw the blacked out windows, is I'm like, oh, yeah, that's how Spike drove around in Buffy.
Oh yeah. Plus there are a bunch of things like how vampires explode in sunlight.
Mhm.
You can thank this movie for that. Like when Homer is running down the road and
I honestly can't
blows
think
up like
of-
a Roman candle.
I honestly can't think of another piece of vampire fiction I've seen where they blow up.
Lost Boys. Lost Boys had a couple of
Did they?
sunlight.
I thought it was just because they were near explosive stuff when that happened.
Oh, right. I've seen other ones though.
Yeah, because I was gonna say if you were referring to Buffy, that's not how vampires worked in Buffy.
They just dusted, I
yeah,
think.
they dusted.
Yeah.
But other things like
Richie mentioned Tokyo Ghoul and how like the thirst for blood is, and like how I get physically sick without it is very similar to how the ghouls are in Tokyo Ghoul.
how they
when
can't ingest human food.
They can't ingest human food because it tastes like garbage to them, and they can only eat either blood or human flesh, or in Tokyo Ghoul, black coffee.
Like, I mean, they can keep booze down, but that's more of a universal thing as
Yeah.
far as this movie's mythos is concerned. And
Alcohol is a blood thinner.
I mean,
Aha.
oh yeah, that does. Way to go, Erin.
Yeah, look at Erin coming out here with the knowledge of medical stuff.
Like, I have nothing besides my mother's unhealthy relationship with medical dramas to go off of.
Yeah.
But
We're not gonna try to spoil this one too much because, like, honestly, yeah, I definitely heavily recommend this. If you're looking for a good vampire western, definitely go watch this one. The only other like vampire western I can think of off the top
John
of my
Carpenter's.
head is John Carpenter's Vampires, which is not one of Carpenter's finer films.
This is, yeah, it's basically just a worse Near Dark, and
Yeah.
also, I'm not going to deny he has talent, but this movie has significantly less James Woods, so there's that benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny enough, this came out the same month as another Carpenter film. This came out the same month as Prince of Darkness. October was clearly a loaded month from what I could tell in '87, so I'm not surprised this film got buried.
It was buried by numerous movies.
Yeah, it came out literally only a couple days before The Princess Bride came out.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite movies, by the way, so
Same.
understandable.
It's a great film. I love that movie as well. And yeah, so it got buried by that. And of course, it came out only a few months after Lost Boys. So people might have been vampired out too because they saw Lost Boys and they were like, I already saw a vampire movie this year.
Vampire fatigue.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one definitely benefits from its atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
From the aforementioned score, which, by the way, the techno trills are pretty awesome, but I
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
like the subtle little plucks of guitars that happen
Mm-hmm.
that let you
Yeah.
know you're still out in the middle of the desert.
Reminded
yeah, like
me
the
of
classical guitar.
like I said, New Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
New Vegas, Rebel Galaxy, if you've ever played that little indie game, is another one that springs to mind. What's another some of the Cormac McCarthy movies have similar scores, like
yeah.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Very ambient score for that film as well. Yeah.
Like,
Very minimalist.
very minimalist, very focused on ambient trills.
Talk about an all over the place filmography, the Coen brothers, though, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
You
Hail
go,
Caesar.
yeah, you go for, like, these are the guys who got, like, their first recognition with fucking Raising Arizona, for God's sakes.
Didn't they do Fargo?
Yeah,
Yeah, Fargo,
Mhm.
Big Lebowski,
Yep.
No Country for Old Men, as we have just alluded to.
A Serious Man, I believe? Was that them? No, that wasn't.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Barton Fink,
Barton Fink, that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Hudsucker Proxy.
Um,
Talk about diverse. Oh, brother, where art thou?
what's...
Oh yeah.
Oh, what was the one they did with Brad Pitt?
I think that's just Hail Caesar again.
No.
No, it was a different movie. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
Burn After Reading, is that it?
Maybe?
I think it was Burn After Reading. That's one of those ones I've always
Burn.
meant to see, but I haven't. I've heard it's really good.
But yeah, like, I also like the character work in this, too. Like,
Yeah,
I
Burn
think...
After Reading. Burn After
Oh, it was
Reading.
Burn After Reading.
Yeah.
I like the character work in this. I think my favorite moment was in the beginning when they were establishing the characters and Caleb was kind of coming on to me strong.
Mhm.
And
True
Eric...
Grit.
Yeah.
The other
True
movie
Grit.
I mentioned that's also a Western is True Grit.
True Grit. Yeah, that's
sorry.
a good one.
You
Nice.
can continue, Richie.
But yeah, you kind of play into this. So, like,
Mhm.
I remember starting out and Caleb was kind of overplaying his hand, but not too terribly. He wasn't super creepy or anything.
Yeah, you get the impression that Caleb is just like not, you know, he's not the wisest guy. Doesn't take it.
Yeah.
Just kind of a dumb little hick.
Yeah.
He
And
doesn't take a hint.
Yeah.
doesn't take a hint, but he's not a bad person, as indicated by the fact that he is not keen on the feeding process and spends
No.
most of the movie feeding from cut wrists.
Yeah. He does not take kindly to killing. The only time he even kills in the film is during the shootout, and even
Yeah.
then, I don't even think he actually killed the.
Played a hand.
Yeah, I think he just like shot like non-vital parts on
Yeah.
the guy.
But yeah, Aaron,
Yeah.
you would turn to me. It's like, I don't know if I like this guy, and I'm like, yeah, just give it a few.
Good character development,
Yeah.
you know.
It was good character development because at first I was like, this guy seems a little skeezy.
Yeah. Like I said,
But as he developed more, I was like, okay, yeah, I actually kind of like this guy.
he's a dumb hick.
Yeah.
He's a vampire himbo. Let's be honest.
In a way, yeah.
In a way.
Like, but yeah, this movie. Like, I also want to say real quick. Warning, by the way, volume. I didn't disappoint them this time.
No, you
I
did
did
not.
it.
You did not.
This one stayed consistent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who blew their minds? This guy. Booyah!
It's a fun little vampire movie. What can I say? Would I say it's one of the best vampire movies of all time? I'd have to think about it. There's a lot of vampire movies out there.
Yeah.
This
is
but
up
it's
there
solid.
It's
for
up
me.
there for
It's
me.
very solid.
It's up there for me.
I've seen a lot of vampire movies.
I won't say it's my absolute favorite vampire movie.
Yeah,
Because it's
I would
kind
have
of
trouble
neck
picking.
and neck with Salem, the TV version of Salem's Lot, and The Lost Boys.
Rip Toby Hooper, you were a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched as much vampire movies as you two have. Like, when I started getting into vampire stuff, Twilight blew up, and then I was like, I don't want anything to do with vampires. But I'm slowly getting back into it, like, reading up on Vampire the Masquerade, for example.
Yeah, I have affection for the Hammer vampire stuff.
Oh, Christopher Lee as
Christopher Lee,
Dracula.
one of the best
Mhm.
Draculas.
Put Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust up there, just because, well, specifically Bloodlust, not the first movie. The second one, done mainly by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, with all the really impressive use of digital paint for making the movie look dark and black.
You know,
But I would put this movie up there with Lost Boys for me when it comes to vampire movies.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Because it's not specifically modern. I mean, like, it's probably supposed to take place, what, like in the 60s or something?
No. This looks pretty present day as far as that movie is concerned, because it was done in 89.
87.
Like, 87. It was done in 87, but you gotta remember that it was really, really out in the sticks.
That's very true.
Like,
Very true.
yeah, I understand. Like,
No,
This
I
is the
understand that they
country.
mention it that way.
do you know how much random violent crime probably goes on in like the southern United States at night?
and Texas.
Yeah.
Welcome to Texas.
Yeah, because It took me a second to realize that, because I'm like, my family's all from, like, sticks kind of areas, and they're still stuck in the 80s.
Yeah. Good stuff. Definitely a great underrated vampire movie with some really good actors.
Great cinematography,
oh,
too.
yeah.
The amounts of sunrise shots never gets old because they
Yeah.
always do something new with it.
Mm-hmm. The atmosphere is so good.
Great use of backlighting, too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I was
one-
saying at the early driving scene, it reminded me a lot of like how David Lynch shoots nighttime driving
Yeah.
in his films.
Because you mentioned Blue Velvet.
I did. It gave me the score, especially during the nighttime driving scenes, gave me Blue Velvet vibes.
And then you got those backlighting, foggy scenes that seem right out of a
good
John
shit.
Carpenter movie.
Good shit.
Like when they're all lined up on the road, they're walking.
Reminded
and-
me of The Fog.
Yeah. And, yeah, you've got the moonlit fog as their... You just see their silhouettes until they walk into the light.
Or the
Yeah.
or the scene where everyone's It also reminded me of the scene with all the criminals approaching the jail in Assault on Precinct 13. You know.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be a really weird throwback, but but the scene where they're all like all on top of that like hill or whatever you want to call it, and you can only see their silhouettes.
Yeah.
So if anyone's played Oregon Trail 2 or later games, the scene in the game where it says strangers approaching, that's what that looks like.
Look,
This film's good. Like I said, great underrated vampire film. You know, it's a good one. I might show you guys in the podcast sometime if you haven't seen it.
Thirst?
What?
Thirst is one of them. Have you guys seen Shadow of the Vampire?
I haven't.
No.
That
You
name
guys
sounds...
haven't seen Shadow of the Vampire?
No.
Oh,
And it...
Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe
Oh,
is
wait.
a vampire.
Wait.
It's a metafiction film about the making of
The
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
And
I've heard about that.
I have seen that.
oh, you have? Yeah,
Yeah,
Willem
I just
Dafoe. Willem
forgot
Dafoe
about it.
plays Max Shrek.
I have not seen enough of the movie to qualify me as having seen it, so
That's
let's
true.
put that up
Same.
for next Halloween or something. 'cause-
Yeah, it's you get the score. Nicolas Cage actually produced that movie, believe it or not.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the music was done by Dan Jones, who's like a BAFTA composer,
Yeah.
who
That's-
also did the score for a bunch of other like famous like films and shit like that. And it was directed by Elias Marriage, who's like a pretty old director. Actually, more well known for music videos than films.
Yeah.
Specifically, he did a lot of he's done a lot of music videos for like artists with like a horror tinge. Like he did music videos for Marilyn Manson, Danzig, and Interpol.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and getting to what I said about the combining of horror tropes and what Erin said about those silhouetted sunset shots, it plays out way differently than it does in the typical cowboy movies. Because
There's
you
like
get,
strangers approaching. What do you do?
like, in those movies, like the Dollars movies, you think, oh shit, here's the badass hero coming in. In here, it's, oh shit, it's vampires.
Yeah.
And I know I've said it before, but the atmosphere is truly something to behold. There is a triathlon going on as far as the camera work and the score and the lighting is concerned. It's just like
A beautiful trifecta.
well,
Yeah.
Western horror perfection.
Yeah, no. I guess in closing, I'm gonna say definitely a fantastic piece of vampire fiction that was clearly very influential in a lot of works, even specifically mentioned in early editions of Vampire the Masquerade for like tone and mood for games that you should like try to capture.
Oh yeah.
So I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for a much more moody and somber vampire film.
Oh yes. Moody, somber, gritty,
Mm-hmm.
and
Grounded.
if you're like me, handsome, charming, and starved for Western fiction always, you'll love the twist on the genre and how it really gets across the desolate nature of the desolate, empty feelings of the Badlands out there.
Yeah, it's great if you're a big fan of like Western horror, which doesn't get done as much.
No.
Arguably No Country for Old Men and
Yeah.
Wolf Creek in Australia, and I'm not really a big fan of Wolf Creek because because of how far it goes to shock you.
Oh God, how did we forget the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw, Devil's Rejects too.
Oh
Devil's
yeah,
Rejects.
as we mentioned, Devil's Rejects, definitely in my opinion the best Rob Zombie movie.
Here's one that I briefly had considered for this podcast. From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh,
Oh,
yep,
yeah.
another Western horror.
Another Western horror involving vampires, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, it's a video game, but the Dead Money DLC for New Vegas, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know that sometimes I let my own passion for the movie making part of my picks overshadow some of the glaring flaws, but I hope I've restored your faith in me, because I'd like to think I still have decent taste.
No, yeah, this was definitely a really good pick. I really enjoyed this one.
Hey! Vindication!
Yay!
So, we could go on and on, but
Oh yeah.
you've, broken record, and next time on Killer Score is honestly something is up in the air, I think. Who had this pick?
Well, it would be Erin, because it hasn't been an Erin episode in a little while now.
Yeah, last one was mine was Garden of Words.
Yep. So we've got to pass it back to her. So, do you have something in particular you would like to show us?
How are you going to make us cry this time, you monster?
Oh, I have the perfect movie to make you cry. So, as the weather gets colder, some people want to cuddle up with the people they love, and some people who are a bit more lonely are looking for someone to cuddle up with. So the movie that I'm looking forward to showing you guys is a really good winter movie when it definitely starts to get colder. And if you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you could erase someone from your memory, would you?
Something you've been meaning to show me
I've
for a
been
while.
meaning to show you this movie for
You
years.
monster! You monster!
We're gonna be showing Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Okay.
Alright, tune in 2 weeks while I get the tissues and tell my mother I love her.
Oh, and before we close, we would like to remind you that we still have our fundraiser up. Although, thank you to our listeners and close friends and family, because you guys have made us hit our fundraising goal for our charity project.
Hey!
We actually hit our fundraising goal in less than 12 days, so thank you so much for that. November 24th is the last day. We actually cut it down from December 1st to November 24th.
You guys are great. Seriously, thank you.
Thank
We
you
love
so
you.
much.
We love you all.
We will be keeping it open until that day, until midnight, November 24th, so basically the day before Thanksgiving.
Just think, there's
and-
nowhere to go but up, so if you could get us even further,
Keep bumping us up if you can. We really appreciate it. We hit that goal,
Yes.
and we can't thank you enough. But if you want to help us go above and beyond, link in the description below.
And every dollar, everything that you donate helps someone in need. Even $5 can feed a can feed a person for a day. So, thank you so much. We will definitely be, of course, the fundraisers for helping out local homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters, and food pantries. So thank you so much to everyone who donated, and we hope that we can get a few more donations before Thanksgiving.
you guys rock.
Yep. All right. Have a good one, and we will see you in the next episode.